Good afternoon. My name is Grace Chun, and I'm doing a oral history interview for the Life in Color Oral History Project and podcast. Today is March 30th, 2019, and I am with Jeff and Christine Satine. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. Even though I just said your name, do you mind just introducing yourselves?
Hi, I'm Chrisline Satine.
And hey, my name is Jeff Satine.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. So do you mind if I ask you just share where and when you were born?
Yes, I was born September 22nd in 93. And I was born in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, raised in Lake Park, Florida, and then brought up back in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. So, true Floridian, South Florida girl.
Yeah, and I was born in Lago Nave, Haiti, in March 15, 1994, and I moved to the United States in 2003. I actually moved to Delray Beach, Florida, and then eventually made my way up to, with my family, to West Palm Beach, Florida, and that's where I was kind of raised until we moved to Gainesville for school.
That's great. Do you mind sharing your earliest memory or a little bit about your childhood?
Yeah, my childhood was pretty interesting. It was a lot of moving back and forth. Like I said, I lived in Lake Park, went to school there, and then moved to Palm Beach Gardens. I have a big family. I grew up with 5 siblings, but I have 10 total. But I grew up with 5. We're all really close. My mom used to sell a lot back in the day when we lived in the apartments. Like she would sell we would sell hot sausages, candy to the kids and stuff. So that was kind of cool. We shared 3 people to a bed at that time because our apartment was pretty small. But it was loud. Of course, there's a lot of us with different personalities. But yeah, I think my childhood was full of adventure too. Just me and my siblings like to play outside. We're outdoorsy people. Until this day, I like to be outdoors. I like to get some sun and get some breeze and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you want to know biggest memory?
Or just an early memory or something that sticks with you?
Oh, when my little brother was born, he was the last one, and I taught him everything he knows. That's the highlight. Like I taught him how to ride a bike, how to catch. So yeah, that was a good memory. Just me being able to teach my brother all these things and him coming into the world was pretty cool.
How old were you when he was born?
I think I was probably 3. I was 3. And then as we got older, I taught him all that he knows.
That's great.
So,
how about you?
For me, being raised in Haiti, I think I had a good life. I grew up in a small little town in Haiti where every single person knew one another. We used to have we have something every Wednesday. There was pretty much nothing in the town other than Wednesday we have a flea market that happened where every single person goes to that flea market, whether selling or just hanging out. It's just, so much joy every Wednesday. Every child look up to it. And there's the best food as well. There's a food called akasan. It's really good. It's actually made with milk and all this different stuff. You eat it with bread. That's something I always look forward to have on Wednesdays during the flea market. So I had a really good childhood growing up. Of course, my dad was actually living in the U.S. while I was living with my mom in Haiti. and he decided he wanted to bring his kids over. So when he applied for me, I think coming to the U.S. was the childhood event that I most remember. I just remember, coming to the U.S. was always a dream of mine. Just, the things that I hear about it, how nice it was and how just so much opportunity you'll have. So I just remember being on American Airlines, and I look down, I just see all these lights. It was probably around evening time when we were coming, and this was my first time on an airplane, and this was my first time just seeing, it was just so amazing. I mean, where I'm from, we don't have any, no lighting or anything, no street lighting or anything like that. So this is one memory that it's always, always stuck to me. It's just that the time when I look down, I just see the opportunities and everything that that my dad talked about. America was America's, full of, you find money down on the floor and trees, which was all a lie. But it was just, when I looked down, I was just like, man, this is it. This is where I want to be, So it was pretty amazing. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Could you share any family traditions that you've had growing up, or just things that encapsulate your family?
Mm-hmm. Didn't really have any kind of specific family tradition growing up, because I was raised in my dad. I was raised with step parents, pretty much, where I had a stepdad and a stepmother. So it was like family, in two different places, and my mom was living in Haiti for a while, and then my dad was here, and I was living with my stepmom. So we didn't really have a family tradition, but not until I think recently, we want to be able to spend more time with our family. That was something that I didn't really have growing up, as far as being able to spend time. Either when I was living in Haiti, my mom was always traveling, working, and trying to just to provide for us. And also, she was a merchant, so she would go buy stuff and sell them and stuff. So, and then when I came here, my dad didn't have much time as well. He was always working for us, to provide. So, not until recently, I think, when I moved up to Gainesville, and actually brought my mom over, we just started having Thanksgiving, and it's been 2 years now. Yeah, and Chrisline family as well. We all kind of get together. We have Thanksgiving together as a big family, and play dominoes, play all these different games, and the kids love it. So it's been that's been pretty much a family tradition, I think, that we have established in the last 2 years that we want to continue to do.
Yeah, our family got together every holiday. Growing up, every holiday we would have a big dinner every time. So Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then my dad took all of us to a buffet every birthday. It's just what we do. If it's our birthday coming up, everybody's going to the buffet. That's what we always did. So just every holiday, get together, have a big meal, and then birthdays, go to the buffet. So that kind of was it for us.
That's great. Did your families have any faith background or faith tradition that they practiced, or that you got to see or participate in?
Yeah, my parents are Christian background, and they're non-denominational. And growing up, I just followed them to church. They'll just take us to church. Get ready, we're going to church, even though I didn't really know what it meant at the time. Or I would just go because my parents tell me to get up and go. But yeah, growing up and getting older, of course, figuring out why we go to church, why just to be a Christian. But yeah, they were good examples for me. They're just non-denominational Christians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my parents were first generational Christian. We learned recently, we actually did an interview with our parents, and just we tried to figure out the family tree, who was the first. Where was the idea of becoming a Christian? Who was the first? Because I know my grandma, she's not saved, and and then all my uncles and stuff, they not saved. They do voodoo and all that stuff. So my mom, she came to Christ, and then my dad as well. So they were the first pretty much to come to Christ. So we pretty much, I was kind of raised going to church every Sunday. It was like there's no negotiation for that, you know. It's like every morning. My dad, actually, when I was here with him, he would pretty much be waking up early in the morning. We used to go, even though we live in West Palm Beach, we used to go to Delray, which is like probably a 30-40 minute drive to church. And we used to have to wake up super early in the morning. He wants to be the first one there. He has this little parking spot. He's like, that's my parking spot. If somebody get it, I know I'm late. So every morning he would just, you know, like be like, let's go, we're going, we're leaving, and waking me up. And yeah, so that's our family tradition. And I guess and they're also non-denominational Christian as well. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you remember about the church in Delray?
It's one that my family still go to still now, and they're no longer in Delray anymore. They're in Lake Worth now. It's a all Haitian church. It's pretty much a Haitian church. It is I think what you call it? Yeah, it's a big church. Probably more than 500 members, I think. It's one that I pretty much growing up, and I came to Christ when I was in Haiti. When I went back to Haiti to visit, but that's his church I got baptized in and everything. And this is where when I started taking my faith seriously, that's where I was. So it's just a big family of churches, and even when I go back there, it's just like everyone want to like Jeff, and sometimes they call me Jesus because I did a play in which I play as Jesus in that play, and so it's like the kids and everyone else like, you know, Jesus, like they just like yeah. But yeah, so it's my family still go back there. We still like go back to visit every now and then whenever we go down south.
Are there any like church practices that you find are particular to Haitian churches or unique to Haitian churches?
They're long.
Yes, they long.
We could go from service start at 10 o'clock, and you'll probably get out at like 1:30 or 2.
Wow.
Like offering will literally start probably at 12. And the pastor will give the word at like 12:30 till 2 or something. There's no time limit in a Haitian church. They don't believe in time. Yeah. They just go and go.
Yeah. And the worship too. They like the worship, dancing, and it's just pretty.
There's something about Haitian worship. It's just like like when you worship in your native language or in your home language, it's just something about that just takes it to a whole nother level. And being able to sing in Creole, sing Haitian songs,
Yeah. And the thing that's unique about it is that they actually do both. Sometimes they would sing a song in Creole and then they sing it in English, vice versa. So, it's pretty cool. Like even people that don't speak English can still kind of participate, or even some of the kids, younger kids who Creole may not be their strongest language. They can probably understand it, but they speak English, so they can kind of still participate in it. That's kind of been unique. I think unique to them. And also it's just a group of Haitian, they just kind of like, stick together. I think typically they kind of let the Haitians see it as this is Sunday. Like my dad, for instance, he doesn't, when he like start like looking for a job or anything like that, he's just like, I don't want to work on Sunday, because like this is their Sundays, and going to churches, that's just their time to just be relief from the whole week of stress. So this is just their time to be relief and to worship God and just to be with one another. That's something that I think a lot of the Haitians that go to church, they look forward to, just having that time of just relief. Yeah.
And the Haitian community and the churches are like really close. Like if somebody's sick, you better believe like half the church will be visiting during the week. Yeah. And it's a really beautiful thing, specifically to my church too. Like when my mom was sick, people visited her, brought food, brought drinks. We didn't have to buy anything. It was already done. Sometimes they would clean the house. So the community of the people there too were pretty powerful.
Will you share a little bit about what you remember church being like when you were growing up?
I was very active in church when I was down in Palm Beach. I went to Philadelphia Church of the Nazarene, which is now changed to Philadelphia Church of the Newborn, for reasons that I don't understand fully. But anywho's, I was really involved. I was involved in the younger choir when I was a little one, involved in the youth choir, the dance ministry, and then the worship team. So I was very involved, very active in the drama ministry, anything, you name it. I love to be involved. The church is also big, over 500 people, just like Jeff's church, in which we actually just relocated to a bigger building because we were getting so full. So we actually are in a humongous new church down in West Palm Beach on 45th Street. The church, we have different levels of leadership. We have 3 different pastors. We have deacons. We have deaconess. And I guess you can say, I guess those are the same thing as elders, I guess, in the church. My dad is a deacon. So he's involved actively, and he's always going to people's houses to pray and doing all of that and stuff. We are an English and Haitian church. So like English people will come, English speaking people can come and get the word. The pastor's speaking Creole and then speaking English. So like half of his sermon will be in Creole, and then he'll switch over to English just so everybody can understand. And yeah, we're a very hype and young church. Like there's a lot of youth, but there's adults too, so it's a good balance between the two. And there's a lot of ministry to partake in and a lot of things you can do. They really push biblical teaching, sound doctrine in the church. Our pastor is not afraid to be bold about sin and call it out. So I grew up in a church where it was like, bing, bing, bing. Like this is sin, this is not sin. Heaven and hell type of thing. Very, straightforward. Yeah, but ultimately I love my church. Our church was very cool, very good community, and especially when we get together in people's low times, that's my highlight. Just that we can come together and really share each other's burden, just like the Bible says. So, yeah.
Her daddy was what you call in Creole is a jock. That's what deacons.
Yeah, jock. We say that. That's it.
Yeah.
See, I was a Deacons Girl. Mm-hmm. All eyes on me. No, I'm just kidding.
That's actually one of the traditions I think about a Haitian church is mm-hmm. that there's a really high standard for any children of pastor child or higher up or deacons. There's a big standard laid on that child. From the even the deacon themselves, because they don't want, like, if their child start acting up, then they kind of look bad on them, so yeah, that's definitely a big standard, Yeah.
Yep.
It's a lot of pressure.
I know, right? Like, whew. Don't make sure I sit in the right seat. Make sure I'm not talking during the sermon. Because at the end, after church, they're going to be like, did you see your daughter? She was talking while they were giving the word. She got up too many times to go in the bathroom. And Haitian people, they like to talk. Island people, they just like to talk. So, you just got to, yeah. But, yeah.
So when was the first time you had... Was it because you moved that you got experiences in other churches, or?
Yeah, because that's the only church that I knew until I came here. Yeah, but I grew up in Haitian church, in that specific church, pretty much all my life. And then when I got married, moved here. No, I don't see no Haitian churches around here. Gainesville, I know there probably is some somewhere, but we haven't found one. And Jeff was already established at GCL. So ended up going to GCL where there is Haitian people in there. Mm-hmm. It's just not a Haitian church. Mm-hmm. But Haitians are there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
What drew you to GCL?
I moved up here to Gainesville. When I moved up here, that was one of the kind of a burden for me at first when I was looking to move to Gainesville. I transferred from Palm Beach State College. That's after I got my AA, and then transfer up here and doing undergrad. So one of the things was this is the first time, this is where my relationship with God was really just turning, where I just from the first year of college, where I started growing in my faith. I really started seeing fruits and being faithful to God. And I'm like, man, now because I just feel like I was connected to my church, and part of it was that, for me, my relationship with God kind of was in some way is impacted at my church, because I have a group of people. I'm going to Bible study, and here am I now. I'm going to be moved away from those group of people. So I was just thinking, man, like it's probably going to be difficult for me to maintain this relationship. So when I moved up here, I just really prayed. I prayed a lot. Just God will just help me find a church that I can be called home, that I can grow. And so I went, and first Sunday that I came up here, I went to visit this church. I was all suited up and everything, and it happened to be some kind of game day event that they were having. So everybody was in t-shirt and gears and stuff. So I was like, oh shoot, like I was the only one wearing a suit. But the church was good and everything. I don't remember what's the name of it now. But I was just walking. I remember it was like that following week, I went to a job interview, and then afterward, I was going to the library, and I noticed somebody was just tabling, and it says Gator Christian Life, and there was a friend of mine that was just who became my friend and eventually disciple leader. So he was just tabling there, and then I just came up to him. I was like, "Oh, what do you guys have here?" And then he told me about Gator Christian Life and how they have Bible studies and stuff. So on a Thursday, so I think it was that same Thursday, I went to the Bible study, and it was like a good group of people there, and I really kind of enjoyed it. And they didn't even invite me to church. I just ended up going to the church on Sunday and just stuck there pretty much. And I guess what kind of drew me to stay is before I left from West Palm Beach, one of the things that I started to see or kind of like really interest me was how, as far as being bold, of sharing my faith. So when I move up here, the fact that GCL was something that they push a lot, like, as far as like, hey, you come to Christ, you become a new person, and you are God's ambassador. So I often kind of see it as I look back and see a lot of the churches, it's just more people coming into church and says, oh, I'm getting blessed, and then I'll get to go home and live my life the way I want to. But instead they were pushing for people just to be like, yeah, now you come to Christ, you are God's ambassador, like how every single person have a role to play, a ministry to play, as far as sharing the gospel with people around you or other students. So just that aspect of sharing your faith was something that I kind of like draw me to stay. And then also just other people that just loved me so much, like, as far as, whether it was my disciple leaders, and there was we also have house churches which what they call Bible study. So I had Michael and Nia. They both were leading, and I was really kind of drawn towards them. Nia is actually Haitian, and there was a lot of other Haitians as well. But Michael was somebody that just really humble leader that kind of it was had an interest of just knowing more about me, and eventually when I got married, he was actually my one of my best men in my wedding. But yeah, I just really look up to them, and so yeah, those aspects kind of like drew me to stay. And after graduation and got married, still stayed in there, and just pure love. And also I think after my mom came to the U.S., they, kind of everyone just kind of came together, helped my mom, and my mom was just felt so welcome, and my stepdad as well, and just felt so welcome. And like my mom even says, like, like if I could speak English, I would stay. I would never leave that church, because it's just like she never experienced that kind of love before. Even though she grew up and going to church in Haiti and everything, but she just never experienced that kind of love before. How it's even from the pastor to the kids pastor, or the little one, like how much they love her, and everyone else is so yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Does your mom live in Gainesville?
No, she actually moved to Lake Park, where Chrisline grew up. She moved down south and moved to Lake Park, and she's working with Chrisline's parents. They both work at, I guess, PG National. Yeah, I thought they changed their name, but it's still PG National. But yeah, she's working there. Yeah, both her and my stepdad are down there.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I guess going back a little bit, one of the questions that I guess I'm curious about is your early experience with kind of discrimination or race. I guess I would be curious with you if you were ever confronted with that while you were in Haiti, or if that was something that you kind of saw in the United States, but also with you as well, if you experienced that in school or within your community or wherever you've lived elsewhere. But
yeah. I mean, growing up in Haiti, I mean, race relationship was never an issue because we all Haitians. Like I said, we all knew each other in the small town that I grew up in. We didn't really have TV, so that was never an issue as far as like me watching TV. Like we had like was it, how you say that, cassette?
Tape?
Yeah, like a big tape and stuff. So we would probably watch a movie that way. But
like VHS.
Yeah.
VHS?
Yeah, so yeah, we never really, we were never exposed to the Western, like, kind of, not say Western world, but we were never exposed to life outside of Haiti, kind of. So when I moved to the U.S., that's probably where I think maybe more later on, I kind of seen it, even though I was probably exposed to like kind of discrimination or race relationship. But probably later on when I kind of grow up. I mean, I had really good relationships, like growing up even through high school, elementary school. Although I was bullied in elementary school, but not per se race. It wasn't any kind of race issue or anything like that. Even when I was an athlete as well. My coach, I had one of my coach who still today, like I kind of see it as his father figure to me, and he's actually white. But I think the way I kind of probably was impacted by whether it's race relationship or discrimination is more probably indirectly. I do look at how things affect someone from an individual one-on-one factor, also from a societal level. So I think the way my parents kind of raised me in some way, and from a societal aspect of it, I probably was impacted by that. One thing I know that growing up, I was like when I came to the U.S., my dad used to like always tell me like, hey, if you going to like if you're not gonna buy anything at the store, don't go in. So that was something that kind of instructed me to do, and that was something that I always do. And I always, if I ever go to a store, I just kind of feel like maybe I've been monitored too closely, and part of it would be the media aspect of it influencing me for feeling this way. So that was something that I always kind of I don't know. I still today I still kind of like I don't feel right going to a store if I'm not gonna buy anything. Or even walk into a store that, like, those big high-end store in some way, because I don't want to like somebody to say, oh, you did this, and so yeah. So growing up, it was more of like indirectly, the instruction that my parents kind of give me was more of like how to avoid, how to avoid running into race conflict. Whether it is, just telling me, or when you start working, you're going to be working for the white people. You got to make sure you do this. You got to make sure you walk this way. You got to make sure you work with this intensity, so that way they will accept you. So more indirectly.
Well, I was bullied in elementary school for being Haitian by an American person. So that was. And I experienced that from K through like 4th, 5th grade. So, and then I guess there's a corner store next to our house where we used to live in Palm Beach Gardens, and my little brother and I would go in there just get some snacks. And when we would go in there, the actual clerk would literally come through each aisle that we went to and be like right behind us. And so we stopped going there. I told my brother, we're not going in here anymore. Don't even buy. We're just gonna leave, because he kept following us. So that was like weird. And then, I remember walking home from the bus stop with a couple of my friends who happened to be African American, and we ended up taking a break under a tree. The way Palm Beach Gardens looks is that there's the grass, the sidewalk, and then trees, then house. And so we were just kind of tired from the walk from the bus stop to home, so we just kind of stood on the sidewalk under where a tree was, and just hung there for a little bit until we could walk the rest of the way. And cops actually pulled up on us because the person inside the house, which happened to be American people, said that we were trying to get in there and rob them. So that was very off and very odd. We were just taking a break, and so I was just kind of hurt by that. And then we also have a mall, Palm Beach Gardens Mall, and there's a lot of high-end stores. It's really funny how it's separated. There's the stores where are affordable and the more expensive sides on the other side. And I walked over there one day, just happened to go into a store, a high-end store, just to look around, and then somebody comes over and says, "Can I help you with something? Are you in the right store?" And I could not believe my ears. I was like, "No, I don't need help. I'm just looking." She's like, "Well, let me know if you need anything." But the way that she said it was like, "Why are you in this store? Can you even afford to buy what's in this store?" So mine came from actual people saying things or doing things like the bully, or following me in stores. And there's plenty of other people there too that you can watch, but specifically because of my color, it's no. So, yeah.
So how did you process this, especially as a child?
I didn't even have time to actually even process it. It actually is caught up to my adulthood, to be honest. With the whole bullying situation, and with me actually trying to tell somebody about the bullying thing, and nobody hearing me, nobody doing anything about it. So when those things continue to happen, I just kind of shrug it. I'm just well, this is just how it is. This is just the way it's gonna be. I mean, I can't change my color. I can just be myself, So, yeah, it's still it doesn't affect me to this day, but it does, take part of who I've become. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Did you, or were you able to dialogue about this with your parents in terms of your...
No, I wasn't able to because, okay, so Haitian, it's a culture thing. Haitian parents, they don't really, some Haitian parents, I can't categorize everybody, but my Haitian parents are not the very expressive type. So if I'm feeling something, it's better to keep it to myself, because if I do express it, it would either take them, they'll either feel offended by it, or they'll feel that they can't do anything about it anyway. And so most times it's just keep it to yourself, unless it's a life or death thing, But they wouldn't understand. My parents, Asian parents, they doing their own thing. They're not really. They won't know what to do in that situation. Because my dad being a deacon, he's a peacemaker. He's not gonna try to defend. He's just gonna be just pray about it, or just shrug it. Everything's just shrug. So I grew up just shrugging everything. When it happened, just oh, well, that's just the way it's gonna be. So, but yeah, I've been working on that lately. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I've been working on not shrugging things and actually being more expressive, and trying to really make it known if something is. Yeah.
Do you ever remember talking about these kinds of experiences with your friends, if they've also encountered kind of discrimination or things of that sort?
I've expressed my bullying to the younger people when I was in Sunday school, actually leading a session with them. I actually told them about my bullying experience and me becoming a bully in middle school, which is a whole different story. But I was able to share with them. My friends, not so much. Not so much. Yeah.
So you had mentioned that your parents kind of reiterated, these are the ways that you present yourself within a context where you're interacting with other superiors that are white. And you mentioned that there are Haitian people in your church space as well. But do you, I don't know, I guess for me it's not particularly censored, but I am aware that it's like it's a majority white space, and so things that I might be used to, I can't express it, or like there's no, it will be considered different or a bit strange. And I guess like in your experience at your church now, have there been like interactions or experiences where that has been your case as well?
As far as, can you elaborate? As far as that has been the case where in my childhood, or where I have to do what my parent had asked me to do?
So I guess just like in your like the space at church, or your community of believers that you're a part of, has there been any like interaction or experiences where I don't know, there can be like tension, or because of like your background in Haitian culture, in your experiences with Haitian churches? You may not have any.
No, I wouldn't say any much. I haven't had, well, not tension, but the somewhat differences. Yeah, there's all certainly differences, even from the way churches, the way GCL is set up as compared to what my church, the Haitian church that I went to, and West Palm, how that is set up is completely different. As far as even the way we do communion, or the structure of it, or the focus of it is completely different. There's definitely differences, and when I move up here, those were differences. I think that was that was okay for me as far as the changes. I think I've kind of changes more. I feel like more to like, this is like the way we do things. This is the way we have to do things. To okay, is there any kind of biblical basis for what we're doing? Or is it like kind of changes that we are making? Are those, if we're still within the boundary of God's word? I have accepting those. I don't like, and so much of like, this is our culture, because I think in my church back home, in the Haitian church, our culture influences so much of what we practice in the churches. For instance, even communion, as I mentioned earlier, like one thing that I think my church is and down south is, if someone is not baptized, they cannot have communion. As when I hear at our church here, GCL, it's more open to, if you come to Christ, you accepted Christ, you can have communion. So it's more open, and they kind of like let it open to the person going and getting the bread and the drink, and it's more open to you actually making that decision. But instead it's more formal and structure back down south. It's where it's very kind of close knit. There are people, like when you're taking it, you have to stand up, and then people pass out the little tray and stuff. So you took it. So it's just, I don't know. It's different. But as far as like other differences, even from like from where it's like, I think probably closer to election, that there was a lot of differences within like what we believe, or whether like Republican or Democrat, or I'm an independent. I don't certainly like lean one way or another. I often think that both, if we take certain things that this group of people believe in, we can kind of put together for a better solution. But like, there are some differences there. People might lean more Republican, and on the other hand, I might be like, no, there's a problem. Like, for instance, it could be just as simple as the Affordable Care Act. That's I think it's great. Some people might my church might say no, it's not great. So that's just more of these differences, and I think it's important to have this discussion, which I have, and from a good thing, at least something good that happened. And there was one of my friends at GCL who I remember once, who doing where a lot of the race issues were happening, where a lot of people were not talking about it. He came to me and he initiated the conversation, was like, I want to hear about your experience and stuff. So, it was pretty nice to hear that. And it was we were just in an event, like just hanging out. So it was very, very refreshing, for him to talk about have that conversation. Yeah.
So I guess my question would be like, can you share more about like what makes your church a welcoming place for someone who may not, for someone of color who is looking for a church community? Because it seems like so far your experience has been mainly positive.
Yeah. I think it's. I mean, my experience has been positive because for me, I kind of like see it as, okay, these are the things that are important to me that I like. What are they doing? As far as being welcome, there's definitely ways to improve. As far as like, we do have a good group of like Haitians, like Chrisline mentioned, that somebody walk in and like, oh yeah, there's people like me that's there, but there's definitely need for improvement there. I often think like, why is that we have like predominantly black churches and predominantly white churches? Like, why can't we just all like kind of be together? And for instance, like the worship of where like I'm going now, like the worship definitely, like I like the Haitian worship way better, but like, why can't we kind of put that together? And just, I think it will be a great experience. But yeah, as far as like to answer your question, I think just the aspect of loving, I think that's one way that make everyone welcome, is that how the church that I'm going now, how people go out of their way to love one another. We just had a series on like loving one another. I do think, like I said before previously, is that sometimes you go to a church, a lot of people are focused on themselves. Like, like I'm here to get my blessing. But instead, at least at my current church now, people are more focusing on going out their way to love one another, to meet each other's need instead of themselves. So that's one way of feeling welcome. Yeah.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, so in my church back home, they have a welcoming committee. So like when you first walk in, there's somebody that's like, welcome, they're ready to embrace you. Welcome to church. And then after church, they allow you to come and take some time where they have like snacks and little cards you can sign in so that they can keep in contact with you throughout the week and pray for you. And then try to plug you in right away. Like, okay, let's get you with the ladies group or with the youth group. That way you can start to just form relationships. So that makes our church a good welcoming church.
If there was a Haitian church in town, would you want to attend, or would it draw you to attend the church?
I'd visit and see, because not every Haitian church is the same. And I find myself just probably not the best thing comparing churches to like my church back at home. So I would visit. I would love to visit a Haitian church over here if I found one. I would love to see what's going on up in the north side Haitian church.
Yeah, I probably would visit. I don't think I would. I don't think I would go there. Per se, depend. Like, I probably would visit. And that's why I was saying, like before, is like, if you go to, there's just that difference. Is I would like a mixed church, like a church that has, where you have a group of a lot of African American, a lot of Haitians all together, a lot of white American, a lot of Spanish, like all just kind of, we just speak different language no matter what. But like, I just think that there is something special about like the worship itself, but more importantly, like just the structure. Like, I feel like, let's put it that way, I do like, my church now is predominantly white. I like the structure of it. I like the focus of like we steering the ship. It's not always like, it's not stagnant. There's, like you going somewhere, like we're gonna love one another. This is what we're gonna do. So I like that aspect of it. As compared to my church back home, where I like to worship, like just the lively people are in there. So I would just like a combination of the two. So like I often think about, like we thought about like we want to do church planning. Like I would like to do a church planning. I want it to be diverse. Like I want it to be a church where everyone, no matter regardless of your race, you're gonna come in there and feel welcome. I think about like in Revelation where it talks about the nation just singing, and I just like I want a church where the nations will be there, like people from different background, as far as different race, different country will just be in that church and just feel love and welcome.
It sounds lovely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to ask people, like, why do you attend a white majority church? Like, what draws you in? In what ways could the church improve so that people of diverse backgrounds will want to attend and become a part of the congregation? And so, yeah.
I think there was a lot predominantly white churches can do is we need to remember that like race relationship is not something we should be afraid to get involved in. It's something that I think that like we need to remember as far as what our calling is, as far as there's a lot of brokenness in this world, including people that are hurt from race relationship, that are hurt as a result of sin. I mean, I think that's what racism is. It's because of sin. So I think that we do have a message. The message of the gospel is what will bring people together. I think that's the only way that we can eradicate racism itself. Like there is no other way for us to. We can probably do more of like what liberal is saying. Like let's balance the scale here, or we can not do anything. The only way to do it is for this person to come to Christ and get a new identity. And that way we no longer see ourselves as like back in the day, it was more Gentile and Jews. We won't see ourselves that way anymore. We see ourselves as Christ's ambassador. So I feel like that's the way that if we go to and preach this message and love one another and love God with all of our heart and soul, like, He asks us to, that's the way we can make an impact in this world instead of just, let's just continue what we need to do. I mean, there's a lot of brokenness right now within the world. It has been like that. Now it's coming into life more because of probably social media and the media itself. But I think that we do have a big role to play. We have to say something, we have to act, and we have to do it now.
Yeah. I guess my last question will be is, you both are young and I'm sure will have a family, and for, I guess for like the younger generation, and what is your hope for the church or moving forward in ways that we can create spaces where people feel welcome to come in and to hear the gospel, and how your faith can has impacted your life, and how it can impact their lives as well. Like what is your hope for the church and the body of the church?
Mm-hmm.
My hope is that, like Jeff said, that there'll be more diversity, that there'll be a mixture of all cultures, of all backgrounds, and that we include everybody in everything, whether it's the music, we could sing some English songs, we could sing some other types of songs, just so everybody can feel like, wow, they understand me, or they know me, or like I can be myself here and not feel like I'm being overwhelmed by other people's my hope for the next generation is just that they know that everybody, first and foremost, is the children of God. We all have different backgrounds, but we all serve one God. And just diversity and unity, I think, is just the most important thing for me, really. I mean, it's what we need. And as we go forward into the future, I know it's already hard now, but I know hopefully in the future that can start to kind of get better. But the way the world is now, I don't know. But the best thing that we can do is make sure our children are brought up in a way that they can be the game changers. That'll be my hope. It's just that unity and diversity reigns and that love prevails, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the same hope as well. Just the unity and diverse group of people. And I also hope that we would just be we would be precise of knowing our identity is in Christ, like knowing the gospel and be able to preach it precisely. I think we are living in a time when it is difficult. It is difficult to know where people stand. So I think we have to just together as the body of Christ to be able to know, okay, this is the gospel, this is what we believe in, and that we have a job, and that job is to share the gospel, like the Great Commission. We have to take that seriously, and I hope that in this generation that we will start now, and that the next generation will continue to do so, and that together we will continue to love God and just be loving one another.
Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to share, or something that came to mind that I didn't ask about?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, thank you so much for answering my questions and being with me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.